Hey everybody, hello and welcome to the first episode of Bill Nye the Bitcoin Guy, or we could call it Bitcoin by the Science Guy. We haven't figured out the branding because we're here for something more important than branding, okay? This is an experiment. This is not about physics. This is not about gravity. This is an experiment, and it talks about why you're poor. Something very near and dear to your heart, something you think about all day, every day probably. Why you're poor and other people are rich. Very, very strange phenomenon in this economy. You're smart, you work hard. Why are you so poor and other people are rich? Today we're gonna figure that out together here, okay? So we have some glasses, they have some lemonade in them. What's going on here? Okay, so we're gonna put some labels. Now they have some big glasses here and they have a lot of lemonade in them. One of them says Wall Street. One of them says JP Morgan. You know, he's a representative. Maybe that's the same thing, I don't know. But that represents, you know, big banks, right? There's you, that's you. You have a smaller glass and doesn't have that much lemonade in it. And then there's me. I have a small glass like you. I don't have a lot of lemonade in mine. There's something called a small business, which is, you know, represents mom and pop, just, you know, yogurt shop down the street, I don't know. Now there's one more entity in our little society, and it's this guy over here, and his name is Fred. And Fred has the power to refill or put more lemonade in the cups. And he also has another weird power where I know it looks like if you poured some out that he would have less, but imagine there's an infinite amount of lemonade in Fred's jug here. So if Fred pours some out, it magically fills back up to the top every time. And there's one more weird feature of this little society here, and that is that the people in the society, they love lemonade and they love blueberries, okay? And they can exchange the two. So they can exchange lemonade for blueberries. If they really want a blueberry, they can say trade. We call it 1 milliliter of lemonade for 1 blueberry, okay? So that's a cool thing that they can do. I know lemonade is a lovely summer beverage, but in this little society here, nobody really drinks the lemonade. It's not about drinking it. What they do is they trade it back and forth. They transfer it to each other. So like somebody wants a blueberry, they give somebody lemonade. The lemonade doesn't disappear. They can give it back. Now there's a weird phenomenon where there's a lot of people who are afraid that the lemonade's going to run out. What if there's not enough lemonade? What if too many people want blueberries and there's not enough lemonade to go around and we run out? So you say, okay, well, we have Fred here, our trusted buddy Fred. Fred can fill or refill the cups if we need more lemonade. And Fred loves doing that. He's really good at it. So what he mostly does, now you might be like, well, I want some, I want some, I want some, I want some. He doesn't really come and fill your glass. Fred fills these glasses primarily. So Fred comes and says, you look like you need more lemonade. You look like you need more lemonade. Now there's a weird thing that just happened though. Did you notice what happened? There was a total amount of lemonade, forgetting Fred's infinite lemonade jug. There was a total amount of lemonade in the cups. But now the total amount of lemonade is larger. But the amount of lemonade I have and you have didn't get any bigger. Now what they'll say to you is, well, these guys will share some lemonade with you. Like, go to them and ask, and they'll probably give you some. So you're like, oh, cool, okay. So you go to them and you say, can I have some lemonade? And this guy probably says, well, yeah, but you have to pay it back. I'll give you a drop, a tiny little bit of lemonade. Boop! But you need to pay that back to me over time, and you need to pay me back more than what I gave you, right? And you say, well, that's weird because Fred gave you the lemonade for free, didn't he? And he says, no, don't worry about that. That's between me and Fred. And you go, okay, well, I want more lemonade. You could get more lemonade from other people, but you'd have to trade them something or do some work for them or something. They might give you some lemonade. But if you looked and said, well, Fred gave them free lemonade, they didn't do anything for it. That's strange. I want some of that lemonade. They said, no, you can't have some of that lemonade. Sorry, that's just for these guys. So you're thinking, that's a weird thing. There's another thing that could happen too, which is that you could go to these guys and say, I want some of that new lemonade that you got. And they might say, no, you can't have any. We're going to hang on to it. And then Fred does a weird thing where he says, that's really good that you're hanging on to it. I'm going to reward you for hanging on to it. So because you're hanging on to so much lemonade, and that's a very, very good thing that you're doing that, we're going to give you more. A little bit more, okay? So thank you so much for doing that service of hanging on to that lemonade. You can have more lemonade now. So now there's even more lemonade in the cups, and these guys got more, but again, we didn't get any more. That's weird. Well, so far, I guess it doesn't feel like I'm worse off than I was before. I mean, relatively it looks like I am, but I guess I still have the same amount of lemonade. It's not that big a deal. If I work really hard and I do some work for you, maybe I get some of yours. All right, I hope you're sticking with me, because we talked about how the people in the society also love blueberries, right? Blueberries are 1 milliliter of lemonade, and somebody will give you a blueberry. But blueberries aren't infinite. They're scarce, and people desire them a lot. So something strange happens when now there's more lemonade in these cups, and some people have more than others. And those people might say, well, I really want a blueberry. I have a lot more lemonade to spare, so I'm not really worried about giving you a little bit more. I'll give you 2 milliliters of lemonade if you give me a blueberry. So the blueberries cost a little bit more now. these guys don't mind paying more for blueberries. But you and me and the little guys down here, before it just looked, it was a relative like, oh, these guys are more rich than I am. They have a lot more lemonade. Well, now something definitely changed because you, me, and all the little guys down here, before we had the same amount of lemonade, but we were just looking at the others and saying, they have more than me, that doesn't seem fair, but I guess I have the same amount, it's not that big a deal. But now we realize, if I want a blueberry, I have to give up more of my lemonade for the blueberry. Whoops, don't forget, you gotta refill this because as we know, there's an infinite amount of lemonade in Fred's jug. Okay, thanks Fred. So once you realize that those blueberries now are costing you more lemonade, you might think a strange thing, which is, why did Fred put more lemonade in the cups? Why did he do that to begin with? And why didn't he give me any? So when he put more lemonade in the cups, he didn't distribute the lemonade evenly. He gave it to a few people who, I guess, said that I could come borrow some lemonade from them, but if I wanted to do that, I'd have to pay it back, and I'd have to pay back more than what they gave me in the first place. But when they got the lemonade from Fred, they didn't have to pay it back. And in fact, Fred said he was going to reward them for holding the lemonade, and he gave them more lemonade. So that was pretty weird. But there's another component to it too, which is you're thinking to yourself, well, blueberries, they're hard to produce, but they're not that hard to produce. Like, we are good in our little society here at figuring out ways to produce more blueberries. Like, we increase blueberry picking technology, and we get more efficient and more productive at producing blueberries. So what should have been happening was that instead of there being this amount of blueberries and it costing 1 milliliter for you to get a blueberry, what should have been happening is they're getting better at producing blueberries. So now there's more blueberries. And if there was the same amount of lemonade and Fred wasn't doing his magic trick over there, what's most likely going to happen is instead of it being 1 milliliter of lemonade for a blueberry, these guys are going to say, well, we have lots of blueberries. We can produce them very cheaply. It's very easy for us to produce blueberries because we're getting really, really good at it. So now it's only half of a milliliter of lemonade for a blueberry. So now what's interesting is you're still looking over here and going, well, these guys have a lot more lemonade than me, but in a very real way, this lemonade that I have gets me more blueberries. I don't really have to worry too much about getting more and more and more lemonade. Like, I don't have to go to this guy and say, oh, I need to borrow some lemonade because I'm running out of lemonade. Really, you can get more blueberries with the lemonade you have in your cup, which to me sounds really awesome. So by now, I think and hope that you might be getting the point. To me, it's important questions to ask, which are, why do these guys keep getting more lemonade? Why do I don't get any more of the newly introduced lemonade? Why do these keep getting more and more expensive, even though they're easier to produce? And most of all, why is this jug never, ever, ever run out of lemonade? This is a very simplistic example, but it seems to me that if there were some way to get rid of this and force all these people to use just this amount of lemonade, what a lot of people will say is, well, if they're just trading it back and forth amongst each other, there's not going to be enough lemonade to go around. But don't forget that as we get better at making more and more of these, and the supply of these becomes more abundant because we're better at making them, we can make more of them faster, cheaper. They start going from 2 milliliters for a blueberry to 1 milliliter for a blueberry to half a milliliter for a blueberry, and on and on and on. So you're actually better off even if you don't have any more lemonade. And if you remember back to what the glasses were in the first place, these guys only have this much lemonade because Fred gave it to them. So they're not actually that much better off than you to begin with. So thank you for watching the first ever episode of Bill Nye the Bitcoin Guy. For all you Fred lovers out there, feel free to leave a comment and tell me why I'm an idiot and I'm wrong, and that would never work with just this amount of lemonade. It would never work. Couldn't possibly work. Doesn't matter how good we get at producing blueberries. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Your ATM is safe, your banks are safe, there's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.